The holidays are right around the corner, and what better way to spend the season than wrapping yourself up in a warm blanket, grabbing an Irish coffee, and enjoying a bit of nostalgia. Join us as we welcome Danielle Aubuchon back to Real Beans to discuss two heartfelt Christmas classics, all while sipping a soothing cup of Irish coffee. This is a time for gratitude and love, a moment to remind ourselves that we all share this planet and deserve kindness and support. These themes run deep in It Happened on Fifth Avenue, the story of a lovable drifter whose compassion for those less fortunate builds unexpected friendships and offers a gentle reminder about the upper classes, humility, and remembering where we come from. So sit back, settle in, and let's head to Fifth Avenue. Hey everyone, welcome to Real Beans. I'm so glad you're here to join us again. We have another special guest with us. Returning is Danielle Aubuchon, and today today we are going to discuss two films, one short film and one full-length film. The short film is a cartoon from the 1970s called Santa and the Three Bears, and the full-length is a fun Christmas romp from the 1940s called It Happened on Fifth Avenue, just to kick off this holiday season. Yeah, so Danielle, welcome.
Thank you. It's so fun to be back. And we're here for another season.
Exactly.
Right? We went from Halloween, now we're going to Christmas.
That's right. And this is going to be a fun one because I just watched the movie again. I've seen It Happened on Fifth Avenue many times. Usually it's once every Christmas rolls around. It's one of them that I rewatch over and over because I love the story and the characters are fun. And
so sweet.
And then to revisit Santa and the Three Bears, which my mother tells me that I watched as a kid. And I had no idea. I mean, I kind of remembered it, but didn't really remember the story, didn't really remember much about it. And so it was nice to kind of revisit that and be like, oh, I kind of remember certain things about it.
Yeah.
And so we're now kicking off the holiday season with Christmas and Hanukkah and Kwanzaa. And I thought this month would be fun. And for our pairing today, we decided to do Irish coffee because Irish coffee is nice and warm. It really makes you feel cozy. You can make it various different ways. I did a traditional version of the Irish coffee, and Danielle, you did a version. And what is in your version?
It's a medium roast, but I added Bailey's Irish cream.
And perfect. That's a nice way to have more of the holiday flavors with the chocolate and the and Bailey's is definitely a very popular drink to put into coffee. And mine is with Irish whiskey called Redbreast. And I had first tasted Redbreast last year in Ireland when I was there, and I'd never had it before. And so it turned out to be my favorite Irish whiskey there. So now I'm keeping that in my catalog going forward with all my others. And then there's also, I used an espresso pod because as I was doing some research on various coffees to use, I had one of the pods in my drawer for this. So I figured it would be good to put that in. But you can use any, as I had discussed with Danielle prior to this, we were just looking over, you can use mostly medium to dark roast coffees that will help pull out a lot of the flavors from the either whiskey or the Bailey's. And also if you put whipped cream on top, that really, everything mixes together nicely and they're not fighting each other. So your whiskey's not going to overtake your coffee. And it just really warms your heart. And especially on today, as we're taping this, it's downpouring outside. So it's not really the Christmas feeling yet, but
I'm getting there.
Coming up, but with the downpour.
And for those of you who don't know, Ben's drink looks so festive because he did the whole bit. It has the whipped cream on top and it's a beautiful work of art, Ben.
Yeah. And it all mixes together after the whipped cream melts into it. So then you've got a nice milky style drink. And
love it.
really is a nice feature for this time of year. So, and I figured with how cold and rainy it is out, it's the perfect way to get into our topics of discussion and movies today. But
Yes,
first,
yes.
we're gonna do a little coffee break
Thank
before we
you.
jump into the movie. So I'm just gonna talk a little bit about Irish cream and where it began and what was the appeal for it, and then we'll discuss a little bit more about it after that. But Irish coffee, it was born in Limerick at one of the air bases, and in the 1940s, and it was first created when a flight bound for New York was forced to turn back to Ireland due to the bad weather, and the exhausted, shivering passengers were trudging back to the terminal. And there was a head chef named Joe Sheridan who decided to create something comforting, warming, and special for these weary travelers. And so he brewed strong coffee, added a generous splash of Irish whiskey, sweetened it with
Nice.
some brown sugar, and added a
Oh,
little layer of silky whipped cream on top. And
genius, genius.
and so the legend goes that an American who was surprised by the concoction asked, "Is this Brazilian coffee?" And he smiled and said, "No, it's Irish coffee." But
Well, of course, you're in Limerick. Why would it be Brazilian coffee
right,
if you're in
right,
Limerick?
right,
Come on.
exactly. And so a few years later, in the 1950s, there was a travel writer named Stanton Delaplane who tested the drink at this Air Force base and brought the recipe back to the Buena Vista Cafe in San Francisco. And so after a bit of trial and error, he finally got the Irish coffee down to where he wanted, and then it became a staple in the United States.
That
Um,
is wonderful. I never knew that. That's so fascinating.
yeah.
I love
So,
that.
having the roots in Ireland and then making its
Mhm.
way transcontinental over to the United States, making it the way we want to here, because, we have American whiskey as well. So if they didn't have Irish whiskey, you could use just regular whiskey.
Right,
And so,
right,
yeah, it's just amazing sometimes when something as simple as being cold and knowing that whiskey is going to warm you up and then putting
right.
them together with a little bit of sugar, a little bit of sweetness to it, just makes it something that just really makes the cold days much nicer and more comforting, especially too, as
Exactly.
we know, with traveling, and if
Oh my gosh.
everything is
Yeah.
we're already so exhausted and tired, and
Oh, yeah.
adding the
Oh, yeah.
cold element to it,
Frustrated. Right.
frustrated, and with it
Yeah.
being very cold, having someone
Yeah.
just create something like that. And that's what makes chefs really brilliant, when they can just come
Yeah.
up with something. And this is so simple. It's just a simple
Simple recipe.
combination. And you'd think with something like this, it would have been created many, many, many decades ago and not just the
Yeah.
1940s. And I mean, it's
Yeah.
possible it was, but this was the first time it became mainstream.
Mainstream.
And
And it could have been his take on something that could have been an older drink, but it was still his signature drink with the brown sugar, the sugar, and the cream, all that. I love
exactly,
that. I love that.
exactly. So,
That's
yeah.
fascinating.
So, and then, just him just saying, nope, it's not Brazilian, it's Irish coffee.
Who would think?
Perfect.
I love it.
Ah,
Ah. I
so
have
what
to
do you
try
think?
that whiskey. I have to
What's
try
that?
that whiskey. I have to try that whiskey because I've never I don't think I've actually ever had Irish whiskey. Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it's it's a it's a general tasting whiskey, except I think it's got a little more bite to it than our
Mhm.
American whiskeys. But there's also Scotch whiskeys as well, which have slightly. I think those are even have more of a bite to it than the Irish whiskey
Mhm.
does.
Oh, gotcha.
But of course, I was in Ireland when I first tried Redbreast, and so you're like already in the element of Ireland there. And I think
Of
just
course.
because it was one of their most popular brands, and we had it
Yeah.
over here in the States, I was like, okay, this
Oh,
is going to be perfect to go with that.
yeah.
And it
Oh,
was.
yeah.
It's very smooth. It doesn't, as long as you don't put too much whiskey into it, it doesn't overpower the coffee. So you have a nice combination together. And then you get
Mhm.
the taste of the subtle brown sugar, just gives it slight sweetness to it, and then the whipped cream on top. Now, mine does have a little more sugar on the whipped cream, but they do say you could use just regular whipping cream, whip that up, and then pour it in, and then it just makes
Oh,
like a little layer
I'm for
on
the
top,
sugar.
right?
I'm for the sugar. Go for the sugar.
But yes, and you have the Baileys, and how was yours tasting?
Oh, it's delicious, and I looked for the flavored Baileys, and I decided just to go to the original. and because I wanted to kind of taste more, I wanted to taste the coffee with it, and it's delicious. It's a treat. It's a treat. It's like kind of like what our pumpkin latte was, but with a little kick.
Right.
It's like a warm milkshake.
And the original Bailey's is a classic, and so
Mhm.
go back to the classics, and you
Gotta do
don't
it.
sometimes need all that extra flavoring to it, and just
No,
especially sometimes with coffee. Coffee can sometimes really play with some of those flavorings in a way you don't particularly would
don't
care
want.
for.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah, I thought of getting the peppermint. I think they have a peppermint Baileys, and I thought, with coffee, nah, I'll
That would
just
have
go.
been probably okay, I
You think?
think.
You
I
think?
think it would have been
Well,
fine.
maybe we should
Peppermint is
try it.
pretty, but again, much like if with the sugars and with the whiskey, it could be overpowering because it is such a
That's what I'm
powerful
thinking.
taste.
Yeah.
So if it's too overpowering with peppermint, then you're just gonna have then it's just gonna be like your peppermint mocha pretty much. Um,
Right. Right,
and
right, which is fun too, but I think maybe that should be best on over the rocks or
right,
something,
exactly.
or
Or
on
in a
ice cream.
martini of
Yeah.
some sort. Yeah, ice cream.
Mm,
Yeah. Yeah.
that would be good.
So, yeah, so with any type of coffee concoction like this, you do want to make sure you have a good balance between the two items
Right.
that you're missing putting together. And
Mhm.
yeah, I'm very pleased with it. I don't usually drink Irish coffees very often, so
Yeah. And I don't
sometimes it
do
can be
Baileys,
a
but
bit too much sweetness, but I think being able to do it myself and putting how much I wanted into it,
mm.
I only did it.
Mhm.
It said 1 to 2 teaspoons of brown sugar, and I just used 1 teaspoon because I
Oh,
didn't want
okay,
it to be
good.
too much, and
Right.
just a little bit of whipped cream on top, and
Mm.
voila!
Voila. And it was beautiful. It looked beautiful.
Yeah,
Mm,
very
mm,
nice, very
mm,
smooth. That's the best
mm.
part too, is when it all comes together and it's smooth. And
Yes.
especially for those who don't like the taste of coffee, it does
Mhm.
mask a lot of that bitterness of it.
Yeah.
Um, it's so that way you still get your caffeinated fix on
Right.
top of having a little bit of special kick. With
Special kick. But I loved your suggestion of doing the medium roast as opposed to the light roast because of the flavors, and you don't want it overpowering the coffee because I do like the flavor of coffee, so that was a good tip. Thank
Right,
you.
and I remember I had originally thought to myself that the light version would be the better choice because of
Right.
you have the heavy whiskey, but I guess just having both together being in the similar taste of being very heavy with the whiskey and or the Baileys being very indulgent, having
Yeah.
something like a dark roast or a medium roast to pull it all together is the better way to go. So I was glad I
Yeah.
did some more research before
Thank you
I
very
was
much.
like
Yes.
I was like before I say get the light roast, and then we're like,
Yeah.
oh, this
Yeah.
doesn't taste quite right, and
Thank you.
um,
Yes. Yes. And this is the Pete I don't know if I can mention this, but this is the Pete's medium roast,
Pete's
and I
medium
think it's an
roast. Okay,
organic. Mhm. Yeah, I like
nice,
Pete's.
very nice. Yeah, pizza is very popular. You see that
Mhm.
that and Starbucks are what I see on the shelves in grocery stores the most often,
Right.
in terms of the
We
beans that you can get.
Right. We discovered it many, many years ago. I think is it from originally from Northern California, or that's where we discovered it? We discovered it on a trip up north, I mean, many, many, many years ago when it wasn't in grocery stores. It was just in little stores. I think the same way Starbucks started. But there is a store here that's
Yep,
dedicated to
it says,
pizza.
Berkeley, California,
There you go.
1966. So,
Yep.
yep.
That's where we discovered it. Yep. Alrighty.
All right, let's
Yay.
jump into our discussions. First, we're going to start off with Santa and the Three Bears. So I'm just going to
Santa and
quickly
the
just
Three.
give a little synopsis. Santa and the Three Bears is a gentle and charming holiday film that blends classic folklore with Christmas magic. It starts and follows a mother bear and two energetic cubs, Teddy and Nikki, who become fascinated by human traditions after talking with the ranger at Yellowstone National Park. And the ranger shares all the stories about Santa Claus and decorating trees and holiday celebrations. And it wows the cubs so much that they decide they're not ready for their long winter hibernation, much to mother's dismay. And they decide they're not going to hibernate until after Christmas has come. And so they can
Right.
see what Christmas is all about.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is an animated film that's hand painted. You can really see the designs, and the artwork is very beautiful to look at, and
Mhm.
also very 1970s feel to it. With there's a lot of
Yeah.
warm singing, soprano singing of folklore songs so there aren't really Christmas songs that you might pick out from it, but it goes with, especially being in Yellowstone National Park with the trees, nature, having that folk songs behind it really pulls together the atmosphere. And then you have the fun cubs, Mother Bear, and the Ranger. You're only 4 characters in the show, so you follow their antics from the start of hibernation season to Christmas.
Right. Yeah.
Huh?
This is so exciting. What are your memories of seeing it? Because I don't think you had remembered that you had seen it until your mom told you that was one of your faves. So,
Yeah. So, I mean, as a kid, we would watch all sorts of holiday
sure.
classics that would be streaming on television, which that was what they did back in the day. on
Mhm.
on the stations, they would show
That's
all of
right.
these Christmas
Yep.
classics that
It was
were back in the
exciting.
60s, 70s, and 80s, just on a nonstop rotation, marathon evenings for the kids to watch.
Yeah.
And this was
Yeah.
one of them that had to have been on one of the channels that we watched, because I remembered the title of it, because it's definitely with the 3 bears. It's like, oh yeah, I remember the whole scenario
Right.
with the ranger and the bears. And some of the scenes I remember kind of in my mind, in the
Mhm.
back of my mind, being, "Oh, yeah, I kind of do remember some of this." But most of it
Yeah.
was kind of brand new to me because I didn't fully remember, and I would
Love
never
it.
have known until my mother said, "Yeah, you watched that as a kid." And I was
Oh,
like, "Oh,
fun.
I'm sure we did." So, I watched so many specials as a kid that
Sure. Sure.
I'm sure
Yeah.
this one had to have been on there every year, along with
Yeah.
Rudolph and Charlie Brown
All
and
right. All right. Santa Claus
the
is coming to
usual.
town.
Yep,
Yeah,
exactly.
Frosty.
Yeah,
Mhm. Yeah.
and it's a very warm, fuzzy, and slow-moving film nowadays.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's a little bit, you really have to invest some time into it, because it is, I think it's like 45 minutes long, so it is a longer short, but I think it's worth it for what you
I
get
do too.
through the whole thing, with it being so nostalgic and very
I
much bringing the children and the cubs being so excited for what Christmas is, and meanwhile,
Right.
Mother Bear is just like, "I just
Recovery.
wanna go back to bed. I'm
Sleep.
tired."
Right. Yeah. This is so funny because I remember seeing this the first time quite a while after it came out, but I was still a kid. And this would remember when we did Mad Monster Party, I said for some bizarre reason in Los Angeles, they would play Mad Monster Party on Thanksgiving morning.
Right,
Well, they would play this on Thanksgiving evening. So that's when I discovered it, because it was like my parents would have these huge Thanksgiving parties. And when everything was kind of quieting down, I'd go into the TV room, and I remember the first time I saw this, and it was such a lovely way to transition from one holiday to the next, because like you said, they don't really play Christmas songs in it,
right,
but it has that feel, and it's all about when Santa's coming, and it just, and especially the opening. Remember I told you to please see the version that has the live action opening
right.
with the Christmas tree and the
And the gra
train going
and the
around it.
grandpa with his grandchildren
Yes,
telling them the
yes,
story, and, it's a
right.
very nice, opening before you get
Yeah,
to the animation part of it, and that was very
yeah,
typical of that time, of having
yeah,
the real
absolutely.
world suddenly becoming into
This
the,
fantasy. Yeah,
imagination world and animation
right,
world, and,
right,
but it always
right.
had a charm to it. It's like when Disney would do they'd have like the Once Upon a Time book open before the actual animated film would begin.
Sort of.
So,
Mm, right.
yes, but
Yeah,
there is some charm to that, especially when, you have grandpa being very jolly and being like, "Come here,
right.
children, let me tell you a
I'm
story
on my
about."
lap. Yeah, right,
Exactly. We'll just sit
right,
by the fire and the Christmas tree, and we'll just enjoy
right.
ourselves and be cozy and
Exactly, and I particularly love the shots that would go through the Christmas tree, because we always had these fun, elaborate Christmas trees, and just it was so magical to look inside of a Christmas tree with the lights and the ornaments, and that was that whole opening, so I loved it, and
absolutely.
Hal Smith and his voice was great.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Definitely was cast really well for that part, and,
perfect for
um,
casting, yeah.
yeah, because you always we see a lot of the rangers, they're either bumbling, funny
Mhm.
men, or they're like Ranger Smith from the Yogi Bear, are very stern, whereas
Right,
this ranger is just very calm and like enjoying and jolly like Santa Claus, and
Yes, very much so, and loves the bears and has a good
love the bears.
relationship with them.
Exactly.
Yeah,
He doesn't get, and you might get a little annoyed with them with the coming in and not
right,
sleeping like they're supposed to, and
right, but
but
they're
he's still,
kids. They're
but
kids.
yeah,
They're cubs.
exactly.
Yeah.
He still
Mhm.
realizes that they're children. They don't know anything about Christmas, and he happens
Right.
to tell them, and then Mother Bear's just like, I don't know what Christmas is. I don't understand. That ranger, he had to tell my children, and now I can't
Right,
sleep.
right. She's just droopy-eyed and all suffering, and the great voice of William Flintstone, who
Yep.
is what?
Jean Van Pearl,
Jean.
I think.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
Wilma Flintstone. I was
Wonderful,
like, "Yeah, that's right. I recognize that voice."
right?
She
Wonderful
definitely had
actress.
a unique animated voice.
She
Um,
did, although she was also on, I think, a series, a very famous series in the '60s called Petticoat Junction. I think she was on camera as well, but she,
yep,
definitely made her mark in animation
mm,
with Flintstones.
with the Flintstones, definitely.
Yeah, yeah.
No, but she's really good. But for the
Mhm.
most part, the focus of the film is the ranger and the 2 cubs, and the
Correct.
cubs,
Yeah.
like, trying to understand what Christmas is and what a Christmas tree is, and
Yeah, right. And he goes and he cuts down a tree for them and helps them to decorate in the cave, which is so cozy and so fun too,
right.
and tells them a story of Santa Claus, so they refuse to sleep until Santa Claus actually comes, and he knows he's in deep doo-doo with Mama Bear because,
Yeah, if
she's,
that doesn't
are you
happen,
kidding?
then it's
He's
going
in
to
big
make
trouble.
hibernation season even worse because the kids will be so
Mhm.
disappointed. So they decide to make Ranger become Santa Claus. And of
Right.
course, it's Christmas, it's Yellowstone National Park, snowing. All of a sudden,
Yep.
the major storm hits and he has to take shelter. And
Right.
the kids are waiting and waiting. Where's Santa Claus? Where's Santa? Is he? And then out of nowhere, a Santa Claus appears with the presents,
With
and Mama
yeah.
Bear just thinks, "Oh, finally, Ranger has arrived. Geez, what's going on?" And then
Yeah.
you see
Yeah.
the Santa Claus disappear, and then a few moments
Play.
later, here comes Ranger as Santa Claus. "Oh, ho, ho!" And
With
it's like,
with
"We've
his
already
cheesy
seen
looking
you."
beard. Yeah. Yeah. Clearly
And
the fake Santa beard. Yeah.
right, right, exactly. And then they're all like, "What? Well, then who was that before?"
The magic of
It
Christmas.
was exactly. It was that
Yeah.
jolly old elf Santa Claus who came.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah, so
And
sweet. It really is sweet. If you have young ones, I mean, I'll watch it by myself. I'll watch it with, anytime, but if you have young ones, watch it with them. It's just so sweet.
it's definitely has that charm, especially as after I watched it, I told you about the one scene where the ranger is sleeping, and all of a
Yes.
sudden you hear this choir singing. He wakes up and looks into the fireplace, and all the little fires have faces on them singing a chorus. And I
That
said,
was a little
I had to say that Ranger had had too much eggnog at that point, that
yeah,
he was seeing
or
faces in
or
the
that's
fireplace.
right. Yes, or he had made his own recipe of his Irish coffee, and suddenly the
Exactly, and
faces were appearing. My
it's
gracious.
starting to hear the choir sing and then faces singing at him.
Mhm, mhm. That was pretty psychedelic. Well, you're thinking it's 1970, so there you go.
Exactly.
I mean, they had to entertain the parents too, I guess, while this was
Exactly,
going on.
and while it
Yeah.
kinda comes off a little bit corny today,
Yes,
but
totally.
it's very charming in the way, even
It
though
is.
you laugh at it and be like, "Oh my gosh, there's faces in the fireplace. Oh, this, that, and this and that." You still there's always been a charm to these psychedelic stories that
Yeah.
were created in the
Oh, yeah.
'70s. I mean, we
Yeah.
saw it with Witches' Night Out. That's a very
Oh, totally.
psychedelic
Very
'70s
much so.
cartoon, and so,
Very much so.
we definitely understand that the '70s were filled with interesting cartoons that
Mhm.
wouldn't be made today. Today would be
No.
it's very
I think
straight-laced cartoons today, and
yeah.
nothing very psychedelic in the way of just the way
No.
things are animated.
Yeah, no. I think it's coming off the '60s that was really the probably catapulted in from the psychedelic era, literally
Right.
almost for a lot of people, music and everything else, to this decade of experimenting with all sorts of artwork and and animation, which is so fun.
Yeah. So for you, what moments stood out the most visually or emotionally for you?
It's always the opening for me, but then it's the opening, going through the Christmas tree because that really grabbed me as a kid because it just reminded me of my own, home and how special Christmas was and our trees. And then it was in the cave, in the bear cave when Santa comes. That to me, I'll always remember that. That's my favorite part when, who is the mom? Is the mom Nakomi? I can't remember what's her name, what her name is,
Yeah.
but she's finally relieved and the bear cubs are excited that and I think they have this shot, I'm not sure, but I think of Santa going off in the sky with the starry sky after the
Yep.
storm.
The
That's my
sparkle
favorite
behind
part.
him as he vanishes into the night.
Yeah. How about
Yeah,
you?
that's for me, I would say I really I loved the ranger's house for some reason. Everything in it
Yeah.
with the fireplace and the cozy
Yeah.
cabin vibe with this he has the
Mhm.
tree, and then when the cubs come to visit and he tells them the story, it's also reminiscent of the beginning with grandpa and the two kids sitting on the chair being told the
Right,
story of Christmas. And
right.
that really was a really lovely moment for me. And then
Yeah.
again, as well, mine part was when Santa Claus actually appears because you think, oh, it's not going to happen. They're going to be disappointed. And
Right.
then here comes the magic. And it's definitely well done and good, worth the payoff for it.
Yeah. I
Mm,
agree. And the
but the
people
whole
who voiced
film,
the cubs were great too. The people who
yeah.
voiced the cubs, they were so sweet and you really did feel for them, you know?
Yeah. Well, we all have that disappointment feel
Right.
sometimes when we're expecting something and then
The
it doesn't go
anticipation,
quite the way. But then a lot of
Mhm.
times it can go the it does go the right way, and you're just
Mhm.
excited even more because 'cause
Mhm.
you've already had that
Mhm.
sort of drop and, like, being let down, and then all of a sudden it's, like, even better payoff for
Yeah.
you,
Yeah.
and, I love how this was drawn. The animation is
True.
very it looks like paintings,
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
and
Yeah.
the lighting of it with the
Very rich.
fireplace just coming up, yes, and even how it was filmed with the real life actors,
Mhm. Mhm.
that coziness, that warm colors, the fireplace crackling, everything just feels and looks just like, you're just sitting up against a warm fire and just enjoying the night without any worries, and then
Sipping
you go
your
into these
Irish
beautiful
coffee.
matte paintings, and even
Mhm.
when the storm comes, it's, like, still beautiful looking snow, and
It is.
we know in weather like that, it's not always beautiful to look at the snow, but in this film, it's definitely
Well,
very pretty.
you're from the part of the country where you actually got it. I'm an LA kid, born and raised,
Right,
and it's like, that's my fantasy of what snow is, but I know what you're saying. I
right.
get it.
Well,
Mhm.
and I will say that coming from Michigan, we do have more pretty snow than opposed to, let's say, in the Northeast,
Yeah.
in New
Okay.
York City, where there's not enough spots. It doesn't last long on the ground. The first
Right.
snowfall is usually really pretty, and then
Mhm.
because of all the cars, the people, the traffic,
Lush.
it just gets slushy and gross looking, so it's no longer that pretty crystal looking snow
Yeah.
that you typically the stereotypical style of snow would be considered.
Right.
But
Right.
in the upper peninsula of Michigan and in the upper sections of Michigan, it's definitely there's enough spots for it just to sit and it can stay. It doesn't melt right away into
Oh.
slush and gross. Uh,
Oh,
uh,
beautiful.
and plus around all the trees and everything, it's sitting on the trees, sort of just
Oh.
dusted um,
Oh, so pretty. Mm.
and I remember there was ice storm that happened once, in Michigan,
Mm.
and it looked almost like Elsa's palace outside with all the trees just crystallized, and it's when it's not always fun to be, out in it, but to
Right,
look at
right,
it from afar is really
right. When
pretty
you're
to look at.
cozy inside by the
Yep.
fire, it's gorgeous.
Exactly,
Mhm.
exactly.
Mm. Yeah.
But yeah,
Can only
the
imagine.
just the way that and it's a very slow moving film, so it does take its time to build
Yes, yes.
into the story. So that way, by the time you do get to the climax of Santa actually appearing and
Mhm.
drifting away, I loved also how they were like, "Oh, it's just the ranger." Like they're so disappointed that it's like,
Yeah.
"Oh, it's just the ranger."
Just the ranger. Yeah, right.
And then when the ranger shows up later, they're like, "But
What the
who?"
heck? Who? What? 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 Yeah, and then they get all excited and they're jumping around and climbing up the tree and doing all this stuff, and it's like, "Ah, Santa, it was Santa, it was
It
Santa."
was Santa. He was
Oh,
real.
oh.
Yeah, it's definitely a, heartwarming and heart warm fuzzies, and
Yes, it
definitely
is.
definitely one that's for the types of cartoons that would come out at that time and the marathons. It's definitely a feature that is because
Yeah.
you have the Frosties and the Rudolphs, which are very much energetic and high
Right,
moving,
right.
and this is a little more slow moving. So it's nice to have a variety of different
Mhm.
styles to watch.
I also remember, like, in LA when they would do these things, because I remember mapping it out in the TV guide, that's how old I am, back in the day,
Yeah,
finding all the shows to watch. This was always shown on Channel 5, which was not one of the major networks. So, the major networks would show things like Frosty and Rudolph and Santa Claus is Coming to Town and Little Drummer Boy and all that stuff. This was one of the kind of offshoots, and I think there were a couple others that would show up on those stations, and it's more of the slow moving, not the high, like you say, energy or even high budget, even
right.
budgeted, ones, but they're so charming. It's like there was one called, well, The Night Before Christmas, they did an animated special too, but I don't know if that was Hanna-Barbera or was that Rankin Bass?
Rankin Bass did that one with the
It was
clock.
Rankin Bass.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay,
Yep,
okay.
that was Rankin
Yeah.
Bass, but that was one
Oh,
of their more low budget animated
right.
films, and not as popular as
As
Frosty
the
and
stop
Little
motion,
Drummer
right, and
Boy and the stop
right.
motion animation, which is why it was probably on the other channels because
Yeah.
they weren't as
Which is
popular,
interesting.
and
Yeah.
but because you needed something to watch and maybe there wasn't anything on ABC, NBC, or CBS, that it was like,
Right.
"Oh, well, this will be on for the kids to watch, so let's just enjoy this." And it's
That's exactly right.
Christmassy, it's animation,
Mhm.
and,
And
um
Thanksgiving is here, so let's get the ball rolling.
exactly. Now that Thanksgiving is
Sell
over,
some
it's time
toys.
to go forward with the Christmas holidays, and,
Nice. Yes.
yeah.
Yeah. It's just a sweet and it's not that long, so, you
No.
know, watch it. It's lovely. It's
It's
lovely.
very it's quiet storytelling at its best, really,
Yeah.
and it does
Absolutely.
have a nice message to it for the holidays, especially at the end when we're back to the live version with the
Mhm.
grandpa and the kids are fast asleep, and grandpa's just sitting there, about ready to fall asleep himself because
Yeah.
everything is just so loving and caring. It's just like,
Right. Warm.
um,
Yeah.
warm,
Yeah.
and yeah, and then also there's a bit of innocence to this whole show
Mm.
as well because of the Cubs not knowing and being very new to this whole experience,
Never knowing anything about it.
and then
Yeah.
now they
Mm.
can go, and as years go by, they'll remember their Christmas, even though they may not have another one like it again because of the hibernations.
Right.
Um, they can
Mhm.
at least know and have that memory going forward that they were
Yeah.
able to
And tell
see.
their cubs about it.
Exactly. Yeah, there's a couple of specials that have kind of the similar feel to it. There's one
Mm.
that Hanna-Barbera did, which was Yogi Bear's First Christmas, and
Oh,
it's
yeah,
kind of
yeah. I do
similar
remember
where
that.
where
Yeah.
he and Boo Boo decide to stay up for to see what Christmas is all about, and
Uh-huh.
is able to have that experience as well. So that has some similarities in the storyline there.
Yeah.
Um,
That came out a little later, I think, though, wasn't it? A little bit later?
yes, that I think that might have been
Yeah.
the mid '80s, perhaps, or late
Yeah.
'70s.
Yeah.
Um, that one's also fun to check out if you can find a copy of that.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
know that's the tragedy of some of these older classic films that aren't shown anymore, as they're not readily available unless it's on YouTube now. Like, they don't have
Right.
DVDs of these, or they're not on streaming services. Although I will say with, like, Tubi, for example, which is one of the streaming
Mhm.
services, has tons of stuff that you are like, I think that's where I watched it, actually, was Tubi.
Oh,
Was
really?
Santa and the
Oh,
Three Bears
alright.
was on Tubi. And I
Okay.
and I
I
was
like
like, yeah,
Tubi.
all these obscure and nostalgic
Mhm.
movies and cartoons that we remember are sitting there to watch, and
Oh,
kind of
I'm gonna check
interesting because it's not one of the main. Tubi is popular, but it's not one of the main streaming services like Netflix and Hulu, so all of the obscurities go to Tubi, like you said with Channel 5.
Right. Interesting. I wonder if Mr. Magoo's Christmas, remember Mr. Magoo's Christmas
Oh,
special?
yes. Yes, that
Yeah.
was one, the Christmas Carol, episode I
yes.
did is going to has that on
Oh,
there,
very
and
cool. Oh, I can't wait.
um,
I can't wait.
and that's one of my favorites. So,
Yeah, that's a gem. That really is a gem. I love that one.
and yeah, this I'm glad you recommended this one. I feel it's a very fun and loving. If you just
Mm.
want something that's just very homey, relaxing, cozy, you don't really need. There's some story, some
There's plot, but
plot. Well, no, I mean, I'm thinking more of
oh,
like the themes. There's some
oh, yeah,
themes
yeah,
there of like innocence and new and
yeah.
what Christmas
See s
is.
Right, it's kinda seeing the world through children's eyes at Christmas in a way.
Exactly.
Very
And then
young
also
kids, you know?
showing the adults like Ranger
Yeah,
getting into Christmas as much as the Cubs are, and knowing,
right.
because I mean, I love Christmas time and
I do
the feel
too.
that it
I do
brings.
too.
So
Too.
watching that and being like, yeah, that, growing up, we had a fireplace that we would have
Yeah,
fires by
same here.
and just
Same
enjoy
here.
that. And
The big
um,
tree and
the trees and
yeah.
sitting down to watch Santa and the Three Bears.
There you go. Yeah,
But yeah, we both highly recommend this to
definitely.
see, just to at least once
Mhm,
enjoy this, just take in the
mhm.
scenery and take in the feel, and a very non-traditional style film.
Yeah,
Um, and
yeah,
but worth
but
watching,
lovely.
definitely worth watching.
Definitely, definitely, definitely. Loved it.
All right, so now we're going to leave the forest of Yellowstone National Park and make our
Oh,
way to the hustle
dude,
and bustle world of Fifth Avenue in New York City in 1940. So this
mm,
film is one of my favorite Christmas
mine too.
films. It's called It Happened on Fifth Avenue. I
Mhm.
never really knew this movie until I started really getting into Christmas movies and finding new ones to watch that I hadn't seen before. And I came across this one, and it was kind of like your second tier Christmas movie when it came out. It had familiar faces and directors, but it wasn't like It's a Wonderful Life that was so
Right,
popular at the time, and
right, right.
or Miracle on 34th Street. It didn't have that.
Cachet.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
it in some ways, that there's so much charm in this movie
There
that
is,
it's
yeah,
just overflowing with charm. And I
and
watched it
overflowing
again
with
last night.
yeah, okay, we did the night before. Yeah,
Eh,
it's just and it's overflowing with the most wonderful character actors of that
Absolutely.
time that you just absolutely fall in love with their faces, and it yeah, I mean, this is another one that I discovered I had never seen this as a kid. I discovered this just a few years ago on Thank You Again, Turner Classic Movies,
Mhm.
and it popped on, and I remember asking my mom about it. She goes, "Oh, I love that film. I haven't seen it in years." So, it's just sweet. It's
And
just
as you
sweet.
mentioned about the character actors, like, this is one of those films
Mm.
that actually gives them a chance to really have their own movie, as it were,
Yeah,
because a lot of times
yeah,
character actors are just set to the side to be there and always scene stealing, of course, but this time they're all together in one spot where they can all have a good time and just,
yeah.
you
Although I
know.
think though in that time, like, I think the 30s, the 40s, and even to the 50s to a certain extent, character actors were more featured more
Right,
often,
right,
than they are now, of course, but which I love. But in this movie particularly, I think it's just basically it's character actors except for the young ingenue,
right.
and a couple of the women, but yeah, it's just so fun.
It is. So the plot to It Happened at on Fifth Avenue is every winter, Aloysius T. McKeever, a charming and resourceful drifter, moves into the boarded up Fifth Avenue home of Michael J. O'Connor, who is the second wealthiest man in America, as he continues to point out. McKeever treats the mansion as his seasonal retreat because Michael O'Connor is down in Virginia in Bubbling Springs
Mhm.
and is not back until March. So McKeever goes and sort of the housekeeper, I guess you might say, but
Yes, tender of the grounds and
tender. Yep,
everything
yep,
else.
exactly.
He is the master of this house until he comes back. Knows just when to come and just when to leave. Mhm.
Exactly. Has it all plotted out and is able to avoid the night patrolmen who come to check it out to make sure everything's okay. But he does this every year. The past, I
With
think
his
we said,
faithful puppy, with
yep,
his
he brings his
faithful dog.
his faithful dog Sam.
Sam.
And yeah, he basically just runs the place, keeps the dusts, makes sure the clothes are still worn properly and they're not just collecting moths, and
Right.
basically just tends to the place and just keeps it moving, because from November to March, that's a long time for a house to just be sitting with nothing going on.
And
And
it's also a long time for a poor soul who is basically homeless. I mean,
right,
he is a homeless guy, what they would call a drifter in that day, or
right,
a
or a
vagabond,
forgotten
or
man,
a
uh,
forgotten man.
or a bum,
Right.
if you wanted to be more crass.
Right, right. In those
uh,
days, they would say that, and he's got shelter, and he takes care of it.
exactly. He doesn't
Yeah.
just. He's very respectful of the space, and he knows
Yes.
how grateful that he's been able to like figure this system out to work in his favor, as it were. So that
Right.
way he's not
Right.
out in the chilly, freezing cold of New York.
You're
And,
right.
and then as the movie continues, one snowy night, McKeever stumbles upon our leading man, Jim, who's just been evicted. He's a veteran. Michael J. O'Connor is constructing this huge skyscraper and kicking out everybody who lives in this space. And most of them are veterans from World War II. And
Mm,
so it becomes the McKeever invites him in to be a guest of his. And again, just like dominoes, in comes the daughter of Donald J. O'Connor, Michael J.
right,
O'Connor, and
right.
she pretends to be a drifter as well
Because
because
she's
she starts.
escaping. Right, she's coming from she doesn't wanna be in school anymore, isn't that it,
Right.
or something? She's, like, had
She's
enough.
terribly
Yeah.
upset and lonely because both of her parents are divorced, and
Mhm.
she's was just sent to boarding school, and so she's very lonely and wants to start working on her own. She wants to go find a job for herself, and she finds what was at the time a music store that actually had somebody playing the piano or singing the
Right,
music, and she really wants to
right,
go do that. And
right.
so she's invited to stay along, but then all of a sudden, more and more people start filling the mansion as Jim finds friends and veterans that he went to war with. They're homeless
We're down
veterans
on their
as
luck.
well, down on their luck
Right.
because there were many rules at the time where landlords wouldn't accept families with kids. They
It's
just
right.
wanted a wife or a single person. There was no children.
Mhm,
So, of course, if you had children, which both families did, you weren't able to
mhm.
find an apartment as easily as you could nowadays. Um,
Right,
and so,
right, and also
Mc-
oh, yeah, I was gonna say also when she comes into the house, the the 2 guys treat her as if she is intruding, and she doesn't tell them that it's actually her house,
right.
which is so cool because she's like, "What's the story? Who are you guys?" And I think she feels bad for them, so she doesn't say anything, which is so sweet, she
And of
just plays
course,
along.
yep. And Trudy is falling for Jim
Yeah, of course, we have to have the
as we
love
have that
story. Yeah.
love interest happening there. And Jim
Mhm.
is very much like, "What are you doing here? You can't have that fur coat." And
Yeah, right. Take that off.
McKeever's very much a fatherly figure, like, you can't do what? Don't use the mink. Use this one if you go for your job interview." And
Mhm.
uh,
Yes, he's very protective of the place,
yes,
yes,
and
as if it was
and
his own.
so
Yeah.
he and throughout the whole thing has to like figure out how to keep everything going without damaging the property, without
Right.
making the patrolmen find out about this. And so
Mhm.
as we continue as well, Trudy is discovered by her father working in the music store, and she mentions how lonely she is and that she loves Jim, this new person,
Mhm.
and explains the situation at the O'Connor mansion, to which O'Connor, who's played by the hilarious Charles Ruggles, he was
Yes.
such a
Yeah.
character actor who was his facial expressions
Yeah.
are the most
Mm.
hysterical things to watch. And probably what many might know him from is Bringing Up Baby with Katharine
Mhm.
Hepburn, where he plays the
Right.
major. And he also has big eyes, big expressions in that film. And this just
Right.
really, he's like, am I there? He plays the cantankerous old man, but they make him dress up as a bum as well and bring him
Right.
in. But because he's
Mhm.
so crotchety, they're always like, what's wrong with you? Why, Mike? Why do you have to act this way? What's the problem? And
Right.
uh,
Right.
and then as that time progresses, O'Connor starts to get fed up with the situation and decides to throw them all out because it's his
Mhm.
place and I'm going to take care of it. So Trudy calls her mother, who's played by the
Right.
wonderful Anne Harding, who was a big
Yeah.
star at RKO for a while, and
Yeah.
she's so beautiful in this
She
film.
is. And they tried to
And
age her up, and she's still gorgeous.
you could no, I mean she's supposed to be quote quote what was middle age,
Right.
and
No,
you would just look at her and be like, she's still a beauty. I mean, no, you could
she's a
put so
beauty.
many wrinkles
Yeah.
on her, and she probably would still
Yeah.
look like a beauty.
Yeah.
Um,
Mhm.
but
But a lovely
she
actress. The actress, yeah.
exactly. And she decides to, she knows her daughter's in love and she's ready to play along as well. So she comes, and one of my favorite scenes in the film is when Mike O'Connor comes in and starts smelling the what is called
I
slumgullion.
I
And
knew
he's like,
you were gonna say that. That's mine too. I
I,
love that. He's like,
he's just like,
"Hey,
"What's that?"
what is
And
that?" "Hey."
it's that feeling that we all get sometimes when something is like, I recognize this. Something warm is very loving. All these
Yeah.
memories start coming back, and he
Right, like a
smells the
special dish your
slumgullion.
mom would make or something, you'd walk in the house
Exactly.
and go, "This smells like home."
And
Mhm.
for those who don't know what slumgullion is, like I didn't know what I
I
just
didn't
thought it
either.
was just some sort of dish that was
Irish stew?
from Ireland or something. And
Yeah,
but basically it's an Irish stew
yeah,
if you just put it
yeah.
in just a plain terms. And it's basically something that, where is it? I wrote down a few things about it because it was such interesting.
Such an interesting name. I had never heard that either. I've heard Irish stew all my life, but I've never heard slumgullion, you know?
Right, exactly. It's a comfort food. And of course, it's
Mhm,
also it's a cheap filling food. So it's easy to get.
mhm.
It's basically like beef, potatoes, onions,
Potatoes.
carrots, pasta,
Right.
and tomato sauce, which are all very cheap ingredients to
Oh,
get.
yeah,
And it makes sense because before Mike O'Connor was a millionaire, he and his wife lived in a flat above a railroad station. And so that's
right,
probably where she learned to make slumgullion. It was probably during the
right,
Depression. So you have
right,
to make do with what you can. And this
right.
other elements, people might think of this as a goulash or a shepherd's pie. But yeah, when he walks in and he's like, sees the pot bubbling over, and she goes, "Does it taste as good as it remember? Do you remember it?"
Yeah,
And
that is I love that.
um,
Oh, yeah.
but so yeah, that's pretty much the gist of the plot. It continues up until New Year's when they've been told
Mhm,
because they do get discovered by the patrolmen who say you can stay here until New Year's, but then you have to vacate. So they all are
mhm,
being respectful of that. Even McKeever, who's used to staying uh,
mhm,
for a longer period of
mhm.
time, and they decide they're going to go ahead and go their separate ways, never telling McKeever who Mike was originally, and
Right,
that
right,
just to be kind of respectful of that too. So since it was quote quote McKeever's house,
right.
even though it was
Yeah,
originally it's really Mike's house, but he's
right. But
caretaker
Mike is
for.
playing along. But
Yep,
Mike is playing along, and so's his wife, and that's what's so funny, and the daughter's all playing along, so he's like the head of the household, telling people
exactly.
what's sitting at the head of the table,
Yep.
and
Smoking the
kinda taking
cigars
over.
and
Smoking the cigars.
the dinner jacket and
Right,
just basically
right.
running the place.
Running it. Mhm. And then there's this subplot that comes in that because there were so many it brings up a lot of interesting things that are going on, like, today too. The rich who are, very rich and heartless and not understanding that there are people suffering underneath them, like the homeless vets, and they're trying so hard, this group of guys, to buy this old, like, army barracks, is that what it
Yep,
was? So they can have a place to live, and what they don't know is that they're trying to bid on it, but they're being outbid by Michael,
yep, because it's government
and then
property that's not being
because
used,
that's right. And
and
so yeah, yeah,
so he can
I'll
go
let
ahead
you go
and
with the twist. Mhm.
he can
He
go
wants to
ahead
build it up.
and Mike wants it to build his new transit metropolis where with boats and airplanes and cargo ships, and that's what he wants to use it for. Meanwhile, a more practical way that Jim wants is to create these houses for the unhoused vets who put their lives on the line by going to
Right,
war and now come
right.
back. And I mean,
Stepping up there.
the awful thing about it is that this is 1940s, and in
Uh-huh.
2025 it is still
Still going on.
with our veterans. We don't take care of them at all, and they're usually
I know,
unhoused, and
I know.
And,
Yeah.
housing, like what Jim was talking about, is not a profitable venture.
Right.
So business people aren't going to want to even touch it because they're not going to make any money off of it.
Right.
But the point of it is you're giving shelter to people who went off to war to stop
That's right.
Hitler from
To
coming
defend.
over to take
That's
over.
right. Save us,
And
basically.
yep,
Yeah.
exactly. And we
Defend
just
us.
sort of throw them
Mhm.
aside.
Mhm. Interesting. Well,
And
boy, we could go down I could go down that path. That's, my dad was a World War II vet, and he was, one of the luckier ones, but we had friends that it's terrible. It's terrible the way this
and
country
it's
turns its
easy
back.
to scapegoat veterans as
Yes.
well into being like they're vagrants or they're, especially if
Oh
they're
my goodness.
unhoused, it's like it's easy to,
Um,
you don't know what their story is. They came back and
mhm,
maybe they had no family to go to and there was no
mhm.
housing for them because they didn't have a bank account or they didn't have
Right,
what was
right,
necessary to get a house,
right.
which we should have
At least
provided.
at least well, yeah, and at least I know with World War II vets, there was something called the GI Bill,
Right.
which did help, but I don't know where that went and what happened after that for Korean vets, Vietnam vets, and more recent. It's just, yeah,
But
it's just so sad.
yeah, so the twist is that Jim is bidding against Michael O'Connor, who are both in the house at the
Mhm,
same time. Mike has no
mhm.
idea until it's discovered.
Right,
Um,
and
and
his
he
daughter
tries
sort of shames him, and his wife sort of shames him into this, right? Yeah,
exactly because they're like, wait a minute, and because he tries to get rid of Jim by sending him to Bolivia to take a nice high paying job.
right.
And so that's another theme of buying off people because you don't
Uh-huh.
like them or they're causing you problems, quote, quote,
Right,
and
right,
being a thorn in
right.
their side. And
Mhm.
so he
He doesn't
offers
want his daughter
Jim,
to marry this guy. He doesn't
nope.
want his daughter to marry
So he
him. Yeah.
offers this, he
Mhm.
has this company that he owns to offer him a job to go down to Bolivia, but only if he's single, not married. And so there's
Right.
all these stipulations. And the wife and daughter figure out when they start hearing about what company it is, oh, don't you own that company? And then it comes together. And he's like, okay, I've made a mistake. I did the wrong thing. And of
So
course,
he has a conscience. He has a conscience in the
he
end.
does.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate that you have to bully it out of him because or
Well, yeah.
shame him into it. But he does come around and decides to go ahead and take up Jim on his offer on this because Jim has gone out to his hundreds of veterans who he knew and who
Right.
need places like this, and they all were putting a stake into this, their
Yeah.
own money that they may not have tons of money to even give, but they
Yeah.
know that this is a worthy cause. Empty
Mhm.
spaces are all over the United States that just sit
That's right.
and just dilapidate.
Yeah.
Houses and big army barracks like that were just sitting there because if there's no war, there's no place, there's no need for
That's
them.
right. That's
And
right.
the government just lets
Yeah.
it sit there. And
While people are on the
I see
streets.
the appeal
Yeah.
for businessmen to like pick it up for cheap because then they can create
Mhm.
something that they're thinking is going to be was going to benefit them, but also feels that society needs this stuff as well, like these high
Yeah,
skyscrapers
but it
and
doesn't right, but it wouldn't have benefited these poor homeless
exactly.
vets
It
at all.
doesn't
It's
benefit
really
the
a
general.
money-making scheme. No, it was really
It
just another way of making tons more money.
exactly.
Yeah.
And what I love in the movie is when Mike is acting as one of the unhoused in the group, he keeps going over to the phone and picking it up and shares send 12 billion to terrorists, and then Mike McKeever would hear and be like, you've got to stop play acting,
Doing
you
that.
really have got to, you're such a
What's the matter
senile
with
old
you?
man.
Right. Yeah. Oh
And
god.
meanwhile, Michael O'Connor's like, but I've still got to run a business. He's still,
Yeah.
he has to run his business. And,
Yeah.
oh,
And then they finally discover him some who I'm trying to remember because they call him down to O'Keefe's office to say, "Okay, let's make a deal." The vets and his friends and
yep.
Jim.
So Jim and the two other main friends who stayed in the
Mhm.
mansion go down to O'Connor's office, but they see Mike sitting there and are like, we've got to hide him. He's not Michael O'Connor. And they hide him in the closet. And
Yeah.
then it becomes clear that he is the Michael O'Connor. And of course, Jim passes out because he's like, oh gosh.
Yeah.
And
Classic fun 40s comedy
oh,
stuff
absolutely, the
there. Yeah.
slapstick of just, like, fainting and be like, "What? Where's Jim? What's he
Like, "Where's
doing?
Jim?
Where's
Where is
where
he?
is
Where'd he
he?
run?
Oh,
Where'd
there
he
he
go?
is."
Where'd he go?" Really akimbo on the floor. Yeah.
Exactly.
Hilarious. Hilarious. Yeah, but it's again, warms the heart at the end because he does kinda come around and his wife is there.
They are
Recon
told because they
Yeah.
start falling back in love again, and McKeever is very astute in matters like this, and he's like,
Mhm.
Mary's in love with you. And he's like, what? And then you can tell that they never wanted to be apart. And they even say so. I never wanted that divorce. It was
Right.
just, I'm sure, just everything going on in their lives at that moment was just too much for
Yeah.
both of them to deal with that
And he
it was
became
like
so
this.
obsessed with money. He became so obsessed with his businesses and money that the family was forgotten. And she
Exactly.
said,
And
"That's it."
so it was like, what? It's
Yeah.
much easier to just call it quits and I'll go down to Palm Beach and we can send
Right.
Trudy off to school and, you can have
Right.
your business. And,
Right.
but,
And he kind of discovers that the priority is no longer that, that
right.
that love and human kindness and
And
caring about
the film
people.
is not by any means an anti-millionaire
No,
movie
no, no.
at
No. No,
all.
no,
Like
no.
you might
Mm.
expect something like that with this,
No.
but
Yeah,
it's
no.
more about kind of like Christmas Carol,
Mhm.
learning about your
Right.
past and how it's not always important to have money if you means you have to forego people in your lives who you love or your friends. In fact,
Right.
while we're talking about this, one of my favorite quotes is near the end of the film, and McKeever is wishing everybody a happy new year, ringing in the new year, and he says, "For to be without friends is a serious form of poverty."
Mm.
And that always struck me. That line, every time I hear it, I'm always struck by it because it is an interesting form of poverty if you have no friends. Like Michael
Mhm.
O'Connor had no real friends to
No.
speak of.
And his
He had
family
his
he was
company.
pushing his family away too. He's
Yep.
pushing his family
His
away.
family wasn't
Yep.
there. He had no we never see him with any friends. They're all business
No,
associates, which are not
that's right.
friends. I mean, you
No,
can
they
be
were
friends with your
underlings.
business associates, but they're not
Right.
inviting you out for a drink after work.
No. No,
They're
not
just
these
avoiding you.
particular ones. Right, these guys were either worked for him or were clearly underlings of his,
Exactly.
and so he really changes, but that's so interesting that you mentioned A Christmas Carol because I said the same thing to my husband when we were watching it. It did ring of that. I think there is definitely that flavor, and it's like, "Gosh, what have I been doing all this time? Where did I go
Exactly.
wrong?" He says, O'Keefe. It's like, "Oh, I've missed out. Now I have everything, but I have nothing because I have nobody."
Right. There's nobody to share it
Money is
with.
not.
There's no one who's there to support you. You're just doing it on your own, and that's loneliness
Yep.
is very much a part of that. You can have all the money in the world, and if you
Yeah.
have no one to share it with but yourself, it becomes boring after a while, I'm sure.
Right.
Um,
And nothing will replace those days they were living together in poverty before he became a millionaire and she was making the Irish stew above the railroad station. Those were clearly some of the happiest days of his
happiest
life.
days of their lives, they said.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and also talking about, like, hard work and things when they have to go out and McKeever and Michael O'Connor have to go out and shovel sidewalks to earn some money to get the pantry
Which
filled
is
again. And, he's having to do backbreaking labor like he used to do probably back in the day.
right. Yeah.
But, um, being
Yeah.
like, "Why do I have to do this?" But still doing it. He's still doing it, and
Right. Right.
for a
That's the
dollar, a
sweet part.
dollar 15 an hour.
An hour. Uh-huh. Backbreaking
But
work. Yep.
but they were happy to get it. I mean, that was like, "Okay, sure."
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and,
So yeah, it's just so sweet. And toward the end when well, I'll let you tell what our favorite, vagabond does, but he has a plan for where he goes in the spring too.
yes, as they're all saying
Yes.
goodbye
Yes.
outside, they're like, "Where do you go next, McKeever?" well, there's a lovely place down in Bubbling Springs, and it's Michael O'Connor's place. So when he comes back in the springtime, I'll go
He heads
down there
down.
for the summer.
I love that. That is just so classic, and it's okay. Suddenly, it's, like, okay with him. It's like,
Well,
"Fine," you
and
know?
the last line in the movie is when
Yeah.
Michael O'Connor says, "I'm boarding up this back door here, and he's coming through the front door next year." And
Isn't that sweet? See? Yeah. I mean,
um,
yeah. He
because
doesn't
you
have
get
to
to
'cause those
you
things
get
go
to know
through.
these people. You get to
Right,
once you start living with people or understanding their situations and get to know people, it's
right.
harder to be a
Cold-hearted.
crotchety old man
Mm,
and being like,
right,
I'm not gonna care about you because you have to at those moments. And
right. Yeah, you kind of I felt like it's like after that, it's like these people are all gonna be spending the holidays together. I see Jim and the daughter getting married. I mean, that's just my fantasy, but that's what those '40s feel-good movies were like for me. It's like, "Oh, okay," and he's gonna come back in for the winter, and McKeever's gonna stay there, and it's gonna be one big happy family for
right,
Christmas.
exactly. And you also
Mhm.
wonder because McKeever doesn't, although maybe he does know Michael O'Connor, but they do say a lot that they don't have pictures of him. So,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
and so it'd be interesting to know if he ever finds out that he was actually housing with Michael J. O'Connor.
That would be hilarious. Oh my god. Yeah, but
Uh,
it's a sweet one, but yeah, go ahead.
so do you think the film holds up to today? We were talking a little bit about how things are similar to today
Yeah,
that were
I
very
do.
prominent back then.
I do. I do. Yeah, because it made me think of a few things. It made me think of the situation with vets, with homelessness, and with hard-hearted, people with a lot of money that just can't see that there are people that are struggling around them, and the nice thing about this is that this guy has recognition through his family, his daughter, his wife, and living with these people that, we're all human beings and it's time to take care of one another. And how much how much do you need? How is that feeding your soul? You just amassing more and more and more and more, and you've got nothing. You're alone. So, yes, I
Exactly.
do think it holds up. I do. And it is reminiscent of A Christmas Carol, which is an absolutely timeless story.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's all relevant in some respect for
Mhm.
almost anybody
Mhm.
because, you don't wanna regret things later in
No.
life,
Mm-mm.
because of what you
Mm-mm.
did or what you focused on. And,
Mhm.
yeah, I do agree that it's very much still timeless.
Mhm.
It doesn't feel dated, even though it's in the
No.
1940s.
No.
The
Mm-mm.
whole feeling of family and belonging
Mhm.
and helping others and finding ways to get along together, both rich and poor, and
Mhm.
it comes off really well.
Mhm.
And it is unfortunate that we still have to deal with the
Yeah.
unhoused population,
Yes.
like, not being able to figure out ways because they still have that mentality of, like, if it's not gonna make any money, then we're not gonna even touch it.
Yeah.
And
I
I
know.
feel
I
like,
know.
if we could have I feel like we could have both. You could
I
still
do too.
make money on things, but there are other projects that you could do that would benefit
Well, yeah.
society,
I mean,
to
we
make
could go into a whole conversation about this,
right?
about what people are spending their money on while people are going hungry and not having a roof over their head. I mean, that could
Right.
get us into a whole other situation here, but yeah. But these are stories that continue to go on, and when will we ever learn, you know? The one thing I'll say is that this is very much a '40s film.
Yes,
In the themes are timeless, but the style is very much '40s, so know that going in and have that kind of, feeling
absolutely.
like go along with it because it is sweet, and it's sometimes a little bit corny, but it's lovely in that way.
It's
It's
a it's a
heartwarming in
very
that way.
yeah, it's a very happy-go-lucky film, and it does
Right.
have the cliché of man falls in love with woman after 10 minutes
Mhm.
of meeting each other,
Exactly.
as those hour-and-a-half films needed to be. It's like, "Fix, fix, fix, fix,
Right.
fix, get it done."
Right, right,
But I
right,
feel
right.
they do take their time quite a bit in the movie of building a lot of relationships.
Yeah,
Actually, it is
yeah.
about 2 hours, so
It went by faster than I than that.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
But they do
Oh.
build up a lot of the relationships, so you do care about
Yeah.
all of the characters, including Mike O'Connor,
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
as you watch him change from beginning to the end of the film.
Mhm.
But of course, the favorite character for everybody is Aloysius T.
McKeever.
McKeever,
Yes,
and
he's so lovable. He's so
and
lovable, and his
one of
dog,
the things
Sam.
and Sam, he's a very friendly, charming, jovial
Mhm.
man who's very much like a fatherly type who wants to, there, I'll take care. We'll be fine. Everything will be fine.
He
Or
does. He
or
has a
comes up with
sense of
ideas
wisdom.
to help them.
Yes.
He's not one to just be like, well, what do you think? I'm not going to help. He actually like provides some, not the exact thing to do, but does say, well, there's this available. These barracks are left
Mhm.
over. But he doesn't
Mhm.
say like,
Mhm.
what if you do this? He's basically just giving them just
He's
hints of ideas.
he's philosophic, he's the wise kind of, you know, sage on the hill type, but
He's
in a torn overcoat with a shabby hat and a pup
right. But I
under his
mean,
arm.
he's probably seen life. I mean, if he's
Oh,
been
he
like
has.
that, if he's been
He
unhoused
has.
and just wandering for years,
Yes.
he's seen
Yes.
everything because he's
Yeah.
on that side of the board. But
Mhm.
he did start off in like a regular job and everything was
Right.
great. And then he
Yeah.
just like was like, I just was tired of it and it didn't make me
Right.
happy. So I just decided to float along with life. And he has Sam, so he has a companion with him, and he's
I
very
thought what is
much
interesting, he carries Sam. He doesn't walk Sam, he carries Sam, which is so
exactly,
cute. Oh.
exactly, and he's a very approachable person and talks to anybody, doesn't treat anybody differently from one another, for even being an older person, doesn't treat
Mhm.
the younger kids as anything, doesn't he treats them like adults, and I wondered if you've known anybody who is like Aloysius in your life.
Oh. Yeah, yeah, I think so. I mean, yeah, I can think back and think on parents, friends, and even my dad to a certain extent. There's this wonderful my father wasn't without shelter ever, but that kind of wonderful, warm, wise, generous soul, that spirit of always wanting to help and listening and, yeah. So, yes. How about you?
Yeah. I this one I was like banging my head trying to figure out if I knew somebody like this. And one thing I was thinking about is my grandfather on my mother's side.
Mm.
He was very
Mm.
much not he wasn't really a philosophical person, but he was always about like listening and he always wanted to
Mhm.
know what was going on and would like kind of guide you into
Supportive.
certain areas or
Yes.
decided to help you build something because he was very much a woodworker and loved to do that. So if you needed
Yeah.
something, he wanted to be with you to show you and guide you so that way you could,
Yeah.
get stronger in life. And
Mhm.
he's probably
Mhm.
the
In a
closest I
fun
would
way.
say in a fun
In
way.
a
Yeah.
fun
And
way.
he was
Yeah, the
very
loving
jovial,
fun way.
very happy,
Yeah.
he loved
Yeah.
his grandchildren and was just like
Yeah.
one of those where just like,
Yeah.
yes, let's just have some fun and enjoy ourselves. And,
And
you
that's when
know,
you learn the most, I think.
exactly. It's that life's too short mentality of,
Right.
let's just enjoy it while we're here. And
Right. And soak it
and
all up.
Aloysius McKeever is like that because he's very much
Yeah.
since he is a happy-go-lucky drift from one place to another, he's just like, this is my life and I'm not going to
That's
let
it.
it get me down at all.
Yep.
And
I
then so it's
chose it.
even more heartbreaking in the film towards the end when he's like, "There's no joy. I don't think I'll come back to this place anymore. There's no more joy or happiness," after it's discovered that Mike O'Connor has outbid the barracks. And so now,
Yeah.
they're not no one in the house is happy anymore. And
Mm.
so when McKeever's just like, "Yeah, I don't think I'll come back here anymore." And so you like really like even though he's such a very happy person, he does
Mhm.
have moments of, "Oh, this
Mhm.
is just too much for me to take
Mhm.
in that
Mhm.
I'm just gonna go to something else." And,
Mhm.
of course,
Mhm.
it leads
Yeah.
to another funny line where he's like, "I'm gonna go to the Guggenhof mansion instead." And Mike O'Connor's
He's
like,
got
"The
them all lined up.
Guggenhof?" Yeah, Mike O'Connor is so appalled about the
That's
Guggenhof.
right, he's
They don't
insulted
have
by
good
it.
indoor plumbing.
They have no air conditioning there.
That's
They have
important, that's
nothing.
important.
That's important. You need to come back here. Yeah.
Exactly. Oh, and also at the end when he says to Mary and Mike, "If you need a place for your honeymoon, here's the key to the Guggenhof mansion."
I love that. That is just so classic 40s fun. Yeah.
Exactly. Very, very
Oh,
absurd that he would have all these
yeah.
keys of all the
Yes,
apartments of
does
all
he?
the
He has, like, a big
houses.
key ring,
Yep.
like a
It's
big
like,
giant key
which one
ring,
am
those
I going to go to
old-fashioned.
today? And so he is kind of like a caretaker to all these mansions.
Yeah. Yes. Very
So
industrious.
he's doing them
Very
a
industrious.
favor,
That's
and they're not
right.
having to pay him anything. It's just house and just shelter and food
That's right. That's right, and cigars.
and
Yeah.
cigars. Yes,
Yeah,
have
right.
to have a cigar.
You have to have the cigar. Yeah. Put your feet up. Oh, I loved it. So fun.
Yeah. One thing I was curious about as I was watching the film was if it is a very, as we say, of 1940s happy film.
Mhm.
Do you feel there was any lack or needing more dramatic moments of it? Because we do have some little bits, but it's not something we're focused on. It's like, sure, people have with the drama between Jim and Trudy and
Mhm.
I'm going to go to Bolivia. So there's a little bit of like drama there, but in terms of just
Right.
like a little more of undercurrents of, I don't know if it needs it, but
I don't I don't it would be a different film,
I think
a
so.
completely different film if it did, and I don't know if it would. Probably not. I mean, to me, it's like what makes it charming is it touches on those things that are serious, but it doesn't hit you over the head with them, and it doesn't spend too much time with it. So you feel it, but you're brought into the happy into to hope and happiness a little more quickly, and humor. The 3,
Exactly.
hope,
Like
happiness, humor.
when
Yeah,
Jim is being evicted, they use humor
yeah,
to as he's being
yes,
dragged out of the.
yes,
They make it more humorous, and I suppose for a
right.
more dramatic film, there would have been much more heart wrenching moments like that.
Oh,
But
yeah.
as you say, I don't think it would hurt the film. I think the way it is now because
Yeah,
it does need to be lighthearted. Um,
yeah,
and as you say,
yeah,
touching on specific things, so we know that it's happening, and we know
right,
these characters are dealing with these situations, and it's there,
right.
but it's
And
not.
their
But
realities of life are happening.
exactly,
Yeah,
but the most important thing about it is the family, the love, the
yeah.
friendships, being together during times
Mhm.
of hardship, and helping a hand for everybody,
Mhm.
and
And this might be shedding light. I don't know how it did, when it first came out, but shedding light on a lot of these issues with humor might have been easier for people to take coming off of World War II.
absolutely.
That here we
Well,
go again. We've come out of this horrible time, and now we've got homeless vets who fought for us. And what do we, come on, right?
it's yeah, and people at that time were looking for escapism
Absolutely.
films and
Oh,
not something
absolutely.
that was deeply heart-wrenching that was gonna just make you cry your eyes out.
Right,
Um,
right. No, that's where
but
all the musicals and all the happy films came out. What year was this again? What year was
this
the
was, let's see, 1947, so late 40s.
That's right after right after the war
Yeah,
had
so
ended.
right after the war and approaching I guess, the Industrial Revolution in the
Mhm.
50s. So
Yeah,
and that makes sense because Jim is an architect,
right.
so he's ready for that when
W
that time comes for him.
Well on his
Um
way. Yeah.
Exactly. And,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So were
But a
there
sweet
any
romp.
hmm? What's that?
A sweet romp. It was a sweet romp. Again,
Exactly.
every year. I do the same thing too. We watch it every year as well. You know, it
Um,
doesn't have I can't say it would have the poignancy that It's a Wonderful Life would have, or even watching A Christmas Carol again, but I love this film. It's just
but
so
there
touching.
you can see, like, speaking of It's a Wonderful Life, that has some comedic moments, but it is more of a heart-wrenching drama
Exactly. Mhm.
than It Happened on Fifth Avenue because there's
Oh,
no
completely.
life lesson that one person. Well, Mike does have to learn a life lesson,
He
but not
does.
in the way of having to, like, "I'm gonna throw myself off the bridge." He's
Not
not at
life and
that.
death.
Yeah,
No,
exactly.
no,
It's more of,
no.
like, consciousness,
Mhm.
and what should you do in times of need, and
Right,
whereas It's a Wonderful Life is
right.
a person who does love to help people, and it's
Mhm.
just going down, down, down on him the entire time, no matter what he does.
That's
Um,
right. Right,
but,
right.
with the lesson of, like, well, if you weren't born, then all these wonderful things wouldn't have happened. So there's the nice change
Yeah.
but it is a
Right.
much more, heart-wrenching movie and sad movie compared
Mhm.
to some of these, like It Happened on Fifth Avenue, Miracle on 34th Street being very
Right.
much more happiness related because that's what the holidays are for, to be happy and
Right.
to enjoy
Mhm.
company and be with people and just
Be
relax
with
and not worry
be
about
with family.
life's problems.
Right.
You know,
Right.
deal with
But
life's
but
problems
also
after the
being aware.
holidays.
Right, true. But also, even through the holidays, like, being aware that there are people that don't have a lot of stuff, and this is a time of
Exa
generosity and giving and, serve food at a homeless shelter, do something, donate, food, donate clothes, donate what you can, and that is the spirit of the holiday as well, you know?
Absolutely, especially
Yeah.
now as when they do toy drives and,
Yes. Oh,
soup
absolutely.
kitchens
Yeah.
need even more so now, and yeah, I did a toy drive a long time ago, and
Oh,
it
it's
was
so
such a
sweet.
fun experience to be like, all these children are gonna have something who can't get something,
Yeah. I
or
remember
may not
doing
have.
that. My parents were extremely generous people, always generous, and, with us and with friends and everything, but I remember we lived near the Topanga Plaza, and when I was a kid, they used to have these things where a kid that didn't have, it either was either in foster care or whatever, would write down what they want. So I remember going with my mom and dad, and we'd go pick out the toy that they wanted for that special kid and bring it back, and it just made, this is what it's about. It's
And you know
giving
that
and
that's
caring.
gonna give them that feeling, even if
Yeah,
it's a short feeling of joy and
being cared
gratitude
about
that
and
yep,
gratitude,
being
yeah.
thought
Yeah.
about, thought after,
Mhm.
and McKeever in the film is very much the gracious giving
Yes,
rather than
spirit.
taking. Yeah, he and of course he
Absolutely.
dresses as Santa Claus, so it
Yeah.
does make him kind of like a Santa
They
Claus,
look like that. Yeah.
'cause I was trying to think of
Yeah.
what the character reminded me of, and I was like, he's kind of like the torch, but he's like the guardian angel, as it were,
He
for
he is
everybody who's there.
Kind of a Clarence type. We were talking
Kind of a
about
Clarence,
it.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, kind of that angel and kind of a bigger guy, so he could be the Santa, the sweet face, the Clarence angel from but yeah,
It's a Wonderful
too
Life,
much
yeah.
Baileys. Yeah, yeah, my favorite angel, Clarence, I
Right?
love Clarence, yeah. Mm,
But yeah, he's definitely the guiding spirit for everybody,
yeah,
and
brings
and
everybody
that's he
together, he does.
brings everyone together, wants
Yeah,
everyone to be happy
yeah.
and be joyful
Never
and
feels
enjoy
sorry for him
yourself.
he never feels sorry for himself either,
No, never, never. Meanwhile, everyone around is
which
like,
is
"Oh, it's so
heartbreaking.
sad that he must feel like having to do from," but he's like, "No, that's what I chose to do, and that's what I want to do, and I'm here to help
Right,
and just make life better for people," and
that's right, yeah,
um, which is something that
yeah.
I believe he was kind of similar or talking about how that's why he didn't like the desk jobs, and it was because,
Yes,
it wasn't just he wasn't helping anybody, but the company, and so that's why
there was
this
no
was more of
human
a
contact. Mhm,
exactly. And,
right.
yeah, and yeah, this is such a just a I was just rewatching it again last night, it was just making me smile again
Yeah,
and just, being like, "Yeah, this is," and it's really funny.
mhm.
E
Just leaves you
everyone in it
with a fun, uplifting spirit, fun time,
absolutely, and everyone who's in it is so funny, they all get their chance
Yeah,
to shine.
yeah, they do.
Gail
Yeah.
Storm was the
Oh,
ingenue
Gail
for this.
Storm.
I apparently, she can sing, I was doing some reading that she wanted to do her own singing in the movie because there are moments where she sings,
Yes, playing
but
the piano, yeah.
she was dubbed because
By who? But
the
you're
director didn't want
kidding.
her singing, so he put in a more subtle voice, more soothing, more deep
Oh, no.
feel to it, very much
I
like
wonder who
a
did it. I
jazzy.
wonder. Okay,
But,
okay. I
Gail
wonder
had been
if
in
Arnie
a lot
Nixon.
of she'd been in a lot of movie musicals of the time, so
Yeah, and
it's
later on, didn't
fascinating.
she had her own series, I think, The Gail Storm Show.
Oh, probably. Everyone seemed to have their own.
Everyone did.
Yes, the Gale Storm Show, yep,
Yep,
1956 to
yep.
60s. Yeah,
I remember those in reruns, again, like on Channel 5 in LA.
right.
For those of you who grew up in the area and in the era, you'll know. Yeah. Yeah, that's so fun. Ah. The holidays are on us, Ben. I love
I
it.
know. Now that the holidays are approaching, starting to watch, we'll start seeing all the films start coming out again, and all the streaming services will have them available for whatever you feel you need to watch. And
Right.
I always make it a point to try to watch a Christmas movie every day up until Christmas.
Oh,
Sometimes
I
it
love
happens,
that.
sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah,
Which is
right,
why
right.
I like finding the short films too, because I can then quickly watch that and add that as
Yeah,
one of my watches.
yeah,
And um,
yeah. I've actually
but
bought a few of these of my favorites on DVD just so I can spin them whenever I want to. I do that when I work out sometimes, just put on a
right,
feel-good movie, like the old specials, like the Andy Williams Christmas specials and the Dean
yep.
Martin Christmas specials. It's so fun.
Julie Andrews Christmas special, the Judy Garland Christmas
Yes,
specials. Well,
yes. God,
I
everyone
wish that
had a
was
Christmas
something that would I wish that was something that would come back, make a bigger comeback.
I do
And they
too. I do
sometimes they
too.
do on Netflix. There's some people will do their own specials, but nothing in the vein of like, we're going to do a whole bunch of musical numbers and sit and enjoy ourselves, and just there's none that we don't have that
That was
kind of
that was a bygone
either
era,
attention
I'm
spans,
afraid.
or the people aren't really interested. Although who knows, you know, uh, it- people may want something like that and just don't know it because they're not used to it like
Yeah,
they were in the 40s, 50s, and 60s when that was the
true,
entertainment that they had. Um,
true, true. Yeah,
Especially
'cause
around the
music
holidays, because
yeah. Yeah, especially around the
it almost
holidays.
makes it like a Christmas party or a holiday party or whatever type of party you're looking for. And
Definitely,
y
definitely, and it was a special thing. I mean, when those specials came on, it was a time to gather around the TV with the whole family
yep,
and watch it. It was an event, you know?
eg
That's not
exactly.
it's a bygone era thing, though, because I don't
I think
see that.
so. Which is,
Yeah,
I mean, that's the fun part about, I suppose, nostalgia, is you can remember
sure,
that
sure.
moment. Because I am old enough to remember those similar situations of sitting around the TV to watch from the TV guide listings
Yes, yeah, yes, yes,
of,
yes.
"Oh,
I
that's coming
loved
up,"
them.
or yep. And
Yeah,
so, yeah, so remembering that, and movies
mhm.
like It Happened on Fifth Avenue do bring out that nostalgic feel.
They
Um,
do. Yeah,
and
yeah, and just a warming of the heart, a warming,
exactly,
cozy feeling. Yeah, mm,
exactly. We all
fun.
need a McKeever in our life.
We do. We do. Absolutely, we do. Or if you ever had one, hold them close in your heart
Right,
because yeah.
exactly.
Mhm.
Uh, so yeah. Well, this, was quite fun
This was
to
always
just
fun to chat with you, Ben. I love this. This
yeah.
is so much fun. Thank you for
It's
having me.
just, yeah, it's great to just share films that we both have enjoyed, and also
Mhm.
I'm sure coming up we'll see some movies that either I haven't seen or you haven't seen, and
We'll
we'll
recommend
be
them
able
back
to
and forth to each other.
exactly. So yeah, Danielle, this
Yeah.
was
Thank you,
really nice.
Ben.
It was fun to
So
reminisce
fun.
about Santa Claus and the Three Bears, and It Happened on Fifth Avenue
Yeah.
again, and just
Yeah.
kind of a good start to the good push to the holidays, and getting ready
Right, 'cause
for what's to come, and the enjoyment of the season, and seeing the
mhm.
lights, and seeing
Yeah.
just
Oh, the
the
decorations.
shoppers running out, doing their things, and just and getting up your
Good.
Christmas decorations, and
I love it.
having
I
your
can't
Irish
wait.
coffee to warm your soul.
Your Irish coffee and your Baileys. Oh,
Yep,
goodness.
exactly.
Gotta go make some Irish stew.
Right, some Slangullion.
Some guy I'll do a
Okay.
vegetarian version. But
Right,
thank you, Ben. Yeah,
exactly. No,
it's
thank you,
so fun.
Danielle, for joining me. It's a pleasure to have you on here, and it's always
Thank
fun.
you. Yeah,
And you'll be
and
back,
maybe I
I'm
get to see you
sure.
in person. Yeah, I hope
Yep,
so, and maybe I'll get to see you in
absolutely.
person before the holidays. We'll go out and have some
Absolutely.
lunch or something. Okay.
Absolutely. Alrighty. So
Alright,
thanks
thank you,
everyone
Ben.
for joining us here on Real Beans,
Yeah,
and be sure
yeah.
to check us
Happy
out.
holidays.
Happy holidays. Check out us
Yeah,
on realbeans.com and any of the podcast platforms that you listen to. I have, this is episode 16, so we do have a good backlog, including a couple with Danielle. And
yeah.
I highly recommend the first one we did, which was our B movie thriller of This Island Earth. which was a very popular episode. So I highly recommend checking that out if you haven't yet. And so from here at headquarters for Real Beans, I just want to say happy holidays. Enjoy yourself. Take care of each other. And we'll see you the next time.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of Real Beans. If you enjoyed our conversation today, we'd love it if you could hit the like button, subscribe, and leave us a review. It really helps us grow and reach more fellow film and coffee lovers. You can catch all of our episodes on your favorite podcast platform, on our YouTube channel, and for even more insights, recommendations, and everything films, head over to realbeans.com. Want to support our show and help us keep brewing up great content? Visit realbeans.com/support.